Hello, and welcome back to my Pinterest-inspired remake series. This is project number 3. Now, I know the first 2 projects took me quite a while to finish and edit, but hey, all this content creating stuff, it's a bit challenging, especially when you're trying to do all the filming, sewing, and editing yourself. But I've learned a lot over the last 2 years, and I'm confident that these Pinterest remakes are going to come a lot faster. So now let's talk about these 3 dresses. I have all 3 of them in my project book because they're very inspiring to me, and I would like to make something very similar to each one of them. I'm inspired by all of the bright colors and textures, and I like how they've mixed all the colors together. These types of projects are also a great way to use up what's in your stash, which I know that a lot of us out there in sewing land have way too much of. Now, the one thing to remember before you start making any garment for yourself is you must deal with reality. You've got to know your body, know what you like to wear, and know how things fit on you before you get started, or you're going to put a whole lot of time and effort into making something that you're going to end up not wearing. Now, these dresses are cute and they're very inspiring to me, but I know that if I make anything fitted like this, I'm not going to wear it because I know how I like my clothes to fit. Like this dress that I'm wearing. This is how I like to wear my clothes. I do like things to be fitted up here in my upper waist, but down here around my tummy and my hip area, not so much. So I'm going to take the idea of this dress and I'm going to make it into this shape, which is my style. So out of the 3 of these, I'm going to focus on this one here. I'm a fall person. I like fall colors. So this one really attracted me the most. Now, a while ago, I went to my local thrift store when they were having a big sale, and I got a whole bunch of different sweaters in fall colors that I'm going to use for this dress. Now, I know I just said that this type of project is really great for using up what you have in your stash, but for me, I've never made a project like this out of using sweaters, so I don't have any. So I had to go to the thrift store and buy some. Here's my fabric stash. I have a lot of stretch knits, yes, but none that screamed fall colors. This is a drawer full of other stuff, like a burlap, things like that. This is a drawer full of jeans, and a whole lot of miscellaneous stuff, but no sweaters. So for the bottom edge of the dress, I have this gray sweater. It has a lace trim on it, which I thought would look really nice for the bottom of it. Over here on this side, it's basically a nice burgundy red. So I found this sweater for that section. For the front, I'm going to use this beige color. I like this one a lot because of all this detail. Over here on the side, I have this gray sweater with the floral print. For the top, I have 2 different brown sweaters. I think for the left side, I'm going to use this sweater here with the beaded detail. And on the other side, I have this just plain old chocolate brown sweater. Now, I can't see the back of this dress. I'm going to make an assumption that there is another separate panel down the back. And so I have this leopard print that I think I'm going to use for the back side. So the first thing I need to do to get started is to make a pattern of my dress. Now I can cut up all my sweaters. And I'm starting with the gray one with the lace trim that I'm using for the bottom ruffle. Now I know that it's not the full width that my pattern is at the bottom edge, but it's long enough that it will still be loose fitting around my hips. So I'm going to just trim off the size of the pattern and slim it down a bit. Now I can measure how long I want the top and bottom pieces to be, and I can start cutting up all my sweaters. To make things simple for the skirt, I'm cutting all 4 pieces the same size. So now, let's see what it looks like all put together. I think that looks pretty good so far. Now before I can cut this sweater up for the top, I've got to repair where all the beads have fallen off in these pleated areas. So what I did for the top was to cut away the top from the skirt on the paper pattern and then recut the top out of muslin. Then I pinned the sides together and cut the front and back off center, like the dress in the picture. And I was so excited to see that I had just enough of the beaded part of the sweater for my pattern. Now the brown sweater I was using for the other side was in the shape of a circle, so I had to cut the front and back sections separately in order for it to be on the straight. Finally, I was ready to serge all my pieces together. That's what's great about this kind of a project. You can make it all completely on your serger machine. To make the ripple effect, when joining your pieces together, you have to carefully stretch the fabric by pulling it from the front and back at the same time, and using a rolled edge stitch on your serger machine. Just be very careful that you don't pull harder from one side or the other, or you could potentially mess up the tension on your machine. And if you hadn't noticed, I decided to not use the leopard print piece on the back of the skirt. I felt it was just out of place with the rest of the colors I was using. So I used more of the beige sweater to match the front. Because sweaters are so stretchy, your seams will be very rippled when you're done serging them. To get them to lie a bit flatter, pull your pieces apart slightly. And if that's not enough, you can always press them with an iron. To make the top, I serged the front and back seams together using the ripple effect. But for the shoulders and side seam, I serged the seams to the inside so they would be hidden. Finally, I can sew the top and skirt together and try this on to see how it fits. Now I know what you're thinking. What kind of ugly concoction is this? I will be the first to admit that this fits pretty bad and doesn't look much like the picture I started with. It's way too big, the bodice is very crooked on one side, and hangs way too long. I think that's because the sweaters I used for the skirt are a lot heavier than the ones on the top, so it's dragging it down quite a bit. But I have not lost my vision in this project. I just need to take the sides in at the top, cut a few inches off the top to make it shorter like in the picture, shrink the top of the skirt, and sew it back on. Then we should be good to go.
24 hours later.
So here's fitting number 2, and this is a whole lot better than where we started. And this looks a lot more like the picture and the look that I'm going for. So what I did was I cut the skirt off. I took the sides in 2 inches. I cut about 3 inches off of the top part. And while I was serging this outfit together, I kept thinking about the sleeves. I decided that I wanted to have something a little more subtle than all what was going on, so I decided to use the brown eyelet sleeves that came from this brown sweater, and I really like the way they look. So as you can see, I've pinned the skirt back on, and what I'm going to do is shrink the skirt at each seam so it's not so full here in the center, but it's still loose enough that it's not super tight across my tummy, and I really like the way this looks. I'm also going to add some kind of ribbing around the neck edge, which will give it a more finished look. There's 2 sayings I learned that my old seamstress boss taught me when it came to making mistakes in sewing. One is that it's only fabric and nobody dies. The other is that it's not the problem, it's how you solve it. These are thrifted sweaters I bought for a few dollars. The only thing I really lose if it all fails is my time. But I am determined to learn from my mistakes and make my vision a reality. Oh look, you can see that the dress fits much better with all the changes I made as I search through my bag of remnants for a neck binding. I'm going to use the bottom edge of the beaded sweater for that and finish this dress up. Well, that's it. My Pinterest-inspired remake is all done, and I really like the way this turned out. This was the original, and now I have a version of my very own that has sleeves that's a lot more practical for me to wear on a daily basis. Which brings me to these 2 lovely combination dresses here. I've decided not to make this one because I have this gray sweater combination that I made a year ago. It was inspired by things like this, and of course, this person right here. And as far as this inspiring look goes, while I was making this brown combination, I decided to go ahead and make this red sweater combination. It's made from probably about 10 different sweaters. I just cut them all up into strips and serged them together using the same technique as I did this one, where as you're serging the sweater pieces together, you pull both ends very tightly, and then when you release it, it creates this ripple effect. And I added the black sleeves and the black collar to set off the black accent details in the sweater pieces. And out of the 3 creations that I've made, I think I like this one the best. It's definitely my color, and more my style. Once again, thanks for watching. I hope this video inspires you to take on a project that you've had in your head that needs to become a reality. And if you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button, for there are definitely more tutorials on the way.